Good morning and welcome to the Female Entrepreneur Wallet to Wealth Female Series in support of Halton Women's Place. From Wallet to Wealth is a brand created to speak to women to help mentor, educate, and inspire women to living and leading more empowered lives. In 2020, we did 6 live events and then the big Wallet to Wealth Speaker Gala, where we raised $32,000 for Halton Women's Place and gave out over 6,000 prizes. We will be rolling out our series, our 2021 series of workshops shortly. These are hands-on workshops. So these will be about bringing your laptop because we will be creating clear messaging to stand out amongst our competition and grow our businesses. Join our squad. We're all about success and breaking barriers. We look for the ceiling and we break through it. So not only do we help women win, we shine a spotlight every Monday on a female entrepreneur to help her own her own future. And speaking of owning her own future, here is a woman who did an about-face change after the age of 50. She left a position at a highly paid senior executive role to start her own business at ground zero. Theresa Pellizzari went back to school and entered the world of financial services. Welcome, Theresa.
Thanks, Whitney. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here. Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulties when I was starting there. So I'm just really happy to, and I know there's a lot of people that want to hear your story. So we'll just jump right away into the first question. So recently we've been talking about intergenerational messages and societal messages that create limiting beliefs, or they actually catapult us into the stratosphere. So can you tell us about your experience around this?
Yeah, sure. Whitney, first of all, I have to tell you this whole exercise of reflecting back to the age of 5 is probably the earliest age I could think of, was unbelievable to really get clear and understand my why and how I got to where I am today. So thank you for that. I have to admit, I'm a little bit nervous and really excited to talk about it today. So thanks for having me. I'll try to quickly move through this first question to draw a picture of my story, sort of thing. So growing up, my mom stayed at home, as most moms did 50 years ago. And my dad was a blue collar worker. Neither of my parents had a high school education. They were both great people, very responsible, but there was that gap in our household. I remember growing up, my mom quite often would say, "You guys be good when your dad gets home because he's worrying." And I never really understood at that age, what is worrying? It sounded like a negative journey of some sort. And it was because he was in the type of work he was in, they'd get laid off, called back, laid off. So he would always quickly find work, whether it was painting a house, cleaning windows, whatever it was, there was no holding him back. He was going to make money. The other thing that was very clear in my house was that we were very family oriented. And that meant we spent hours a week with my grandparents on both sides. And my dad's mom was always so cute. She would say, "No money, no funny." And she was as cute as could be. But the thing that came clear to me is there were 2 different families. Both, we were very close with both. My dad's family, when we went there, was, potluck dinners, and, it was like mounds of people everywhere and having a good time and drinking Oviano. Right? Does anybody remember OV? So that was that side. And on the other side, I'd go to the other events, and my mom's family, they were all business owners and entrepreneurs. and, pretty much white collar people drinking Manhattans and martinis. And when we sat down to the dinner table, we sat down, the kids at one table, the adults at the other. The table was picture perfect.
Oh,
And it was very formal. And someone would say grace. And we would then, the kids had a little shot of ginger ale, and the parents had a shot of Crown Royal. So the traditions were very different. And here I am at that young age going, hmm, why are they so different? So I guess, growing up, my life compass started with my parents and my grandparents. And, you know, the thing that at that point, because of my parents not having an education, having very strong work ethic, they always guided me to say, if you're not going to go to school, no problem, but you have to pay for yourself in life. And so I had to pay $15 a week room and board, because after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had all kinds of friends going to university, going to college. They didn't know what they wanted to do either, but they were told that's what they had to do. Where I was, I guess, a bit of a rebel and thought, well, I'm not going to go there for no purpose. Unless there's a purpose, I'm not going. So I'll just go work. So at that point, I decided just to carry on with my career. And so kind of my takeaways from that were, I grew up, I was embarrassed that I didn't go to university. I didn't want to worry. I knew my parents spent a lot of time worrying because they didn't have control of things the way that maybe they wanted to be. But I also learned the other good lesson of being responsible. So those are my key takeaways from my childhood.
okay. So you had a bit of a confusion there. So you had the confusion of one side of the family that were, I guess, kind of more down to earth, and the other side of the family that probably had stronger goals, and they had a broader outlook in the world. So you were caught between these two worlds, which would be, should I go to this one where, I don't really have to stretch my mind too far, over to this one to, gee, I really do have to stretch my mind. And you're somewhere there in the middle between, okay, well, I don't want that life over there, but I also don't want to do all the study over here. So I'm going to try to figure out how to get in there and do it this way. So, so you did have some adversity there with, watching all of the worry, because it is very difficult when you're a child, growing up with worry, because we carry that with us 50 years later. And we have that limiting belief of not realizing that honestly the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit in this world, and the only thing that stops us from getting anywhere is our limiting beliefs. And worry can catapult you into success, and it can also drive you down into the ground. So so the adversity that you experience, I know that you had the two careers. Tell us about how you became aligned.
Well, that probably took many years, because my parents knew how, like my dad he was amazing. I feel like he knew the law of attraction, but he didn't have the education to be able to explain it. So the good thing is, and it's not like my mom didn't have a good work ethic, but her job was to be at home, and she made sure everything was in order for us. I guess the good thing is I inherited both of their work ethics. So at a very young age, can I babysit? Can I deliver papers? If someone else had a paper route, I can help you, and we can split the money. And I worked at McDonald's, and it's funny, when I was thinking back, I would go in and check my schedule on Thursdays, because we didn't have phones back then. And if I didn't have enough hours, and I looked and I thought, oh, Whitney's on shift, I'd go say, hey, Whitney, do you want next Friday off? Yep, scratch, take her shift. Go to the next person, hey, do you want next Wednesday off? Yep, scratch, take their shift. And that's what I did every Thursday. I took control of my schedule and went, what's the big deal? I'll fix it myself if they don't know how to give me hours. So through that, before you know it, I turned 16, got my beginners, and bought my first car with cash. Was really excited about that. And but I continued to be embarrassed that I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then high school ends, and it was like, oh my God, what do I do? So I decided that if it wasn't clear to me and I didn't have the guidance I needed, whether it was from my guidance counselor or my parents, that I was just going to do the right thing and I was going to work and I'll figure it out. So at that point, I decided I would expand into a full service job in the restaurant business, making tips. Oh my God, what a gold mine. So, when I look back, I didn't realize at the time that that's my first job being an entrepreneur. Right? I have this section. I'm responsible. It's mine. I can make as much or as little money as I want. I will take great care of my customers. They'll get what they need before they know they need it. And I will pick up the shifts, and I broke sales records after sales records. And the crazy thing is, when I applied for my first full service job, the manager said, you know what, I don't really think you're suited for this because your experience is all fast food, you're behind a counter, it's different. And I convinced her to give me a try, and that if it didn't work out, we would, part our ways. She was reluctant, but she agreed. And again, in no time, I was breaking all kinds of sales records. And so then I got stuck in this trap of, now I'm making $60,000 a year. I'm between the ages of 19 and 20. All my friends are at school making peanuts. And what do I do now? So it's like, okay, I still don't know what to do. A side of me wanted to be a social worker, but I knew I had a big heart. I wouldn't be able to deal with the pain of watching people go through some of the things that they do go through. So I just carried on. And
so that's how you got into the food business. So you worked your way up into a senior position.
Well, yeah, a senior position came a little bit down the road, but initially it was just making money was what was important because that's all I knew. I knew from my parents making money was important. So I just took the bull by the horns and I was able to do that.
So when did you shift? When did you make the shift between just making money because once you got into that senior position, you would have had to use your noggin, like you would have had to create strategy because nobody is going to put you into a senior position if you're just going to do, mundane over and over and over. So tell us, what was the shift that got you out of the working class mode into the strategic role of being a senior executive in a food service company, a large food service company?
Yes, a couple of them at that. So that just goes right into my next question is, while working in the business, the owner, I mean, they're not stupid. They see the results. That's all they see sometimes is the bottom line and the results. And he asked me to be the operator of a chain restaurant that he had purchased. It was an underperforming restaurant. Head office had gone in there for the last year trying to turn it around and wasn't able to do that. So lo and behold, he approached me. I agreed because I knew I needed to grow up and do something. I was making money, but I was doing, like you said, whatever I was doing was repetitive, and that wasn't me. I needed the challenge. So at that point, we took over. I went for 8 weeks training. So now I've got the books out and I'm studying again, and I was in classrooms and I was in the restaurant learning. And what I was learning is to run, back in those days, $1 million to $2 million business. And so I went in and took over the Wendy's restaurant, is what it was, underperforming in Cambridge. And within 3 months, my sales were up 35%. And they kept growing and growing and growing. So 6 months later, head office approached the owner and said, like, what are you guys doing? And he said, I don't really know. She's doing it. And so really at the end of the day, two answers. One is build a culture where people are empowered and feel like they're part of the team and that they care enough to look after their area of the business and create that caring sort of environment. The second was systemize everything, manage the unexpected and systemize, the day-to-day expected things. And just through that, before you know it, we had 6 restaurants and I became a district manager. And again, took that leap. And that was not easy because they were in 3 different cities. I'm one person. I'm like, oh my God. And I remember in a single moment, I made the decision. If my phone's ringing off the hook, the first thing I'm going to do is pause, no running around, and just stop and use my critical thinking skills and empower everyone else to do the same thing. So, failure wasn't an option. I was scared shitless. I knew this was my responsibility. And so I just did everything I possibly could to make that happen. Before long, fast forward, I ended up being promoted to VP of operations, and we had 18 Wendy's restaurants. I had 3 district managers and 18 general managers and 700 employees that I was responsible for.
That's a big job.
Yeah, it absolutely was a big job.
And you could manage all those people without blowing your stack?
You know what? I don't have a lot of patience. And I have to admit, we were very clear when people came in. Here's our shift goal. Here's what your personal goal is. This is how you're going to help the team. These are the sales records that we're looking for, and this is how we're going to get here. And by the end of the shift, I would have told in the beginning 3-4 people, Whitney, before you leave your shift today, can you wait outside my office door? And I would have 5 to 10 minute, very matter of fact conversations with them. And, this is what we're here to do. If you're not interested in doing it, no problem. We can still be friends, but you can't stay here. And so, yeah, I learned, I would drive home saying, they drive me crazy. Remember that song? I think it's Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So,
They
and it was illegal to suspend people, but I believed in giving people a chance. So I would send them home and say, you know what, you need to take the next 2 weeks off and come back on this day. If you're interested, sit down and tell me what you're going to do differently, because either you fit in with the rest of the team and we work in the same path, or you move on and we'll be friends. So, yeah.
So it sounds like you created some dashboards there where you had a, here's what was going to happen and here's our scorecard. And if we're not scoring, we need to go back to the dashboard. So for people who are watching that are business owners, I just want to move this along, that people that are business owners can see that culture and systems and dashboards and scoreboards seem to be able to run things really well. And at the end of the day, you're driving home from work, singing a song saying, that's Fine Young Cannibals, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Drive me crazy. So obviously you made tons of money in this career, but this was not aligned with your soul. So tell us how now you, in your early 50s, decided, okay, forget it. I'm going to shift and I'm going to now become an entrepreneur, because I think that you have some very good skills on how you work and how you have built a business. And again, it's important for listeners to see and hear that it is possible to make a shift in your life from being as an employee to an entrepreneur if you have specific skills, okay? Because it is different being an entrepreneur. You are working very long hours and you do need to strategically think things out. You just can't run a business, putting a stamp in a book, right? You need to really think about what you're doing, build that dashboard, build the scorecard, and your why would, our whys usually come from our childhood, that, of something that we see, something that we feel, or somehow we were told you can't do this. And so we decide, no, I'm going to do this. And just sheer madness gets us to where we want to go. So you made this decision to become self-employed. So walking away from a large salary to ground zero is not an easy thing to do, because we all grow into our incomes. So if you're making a big bucket of money, we generally aren't living on this much. We got a couple of things that we need to maintain, maintenance.
Yes, it was a huge transition that took me probably over a year. I went through a separation. My kids were 10 and 11 years old. They were my primary responsibility. And I took the time to do some due diligence. And the easy thing to do would have been to go back to the food service industry. I did have a job offer, and it was a decent salary, but it meant being on the clock, leaving the house at 7 in the morning, probably getting home at 6. My kids were both travel hockey players, and that just didn't feel right. But I just took my time. I mapped it all out. I did the pros and cons, and I was interviewing with Sun Life, who was my financial advisor, approached me and asked me to meet with his manager. And then I ran into an advisor from London Life and chatted with him. He hooked me up with their head office, and I did, again, huge pros and cons, and it was crystal clear still to this day that I made the right choice and made it with the right company. So I took the leap of faith, went back to school, that school I wanted to go to when I was 20 and didn't know what to do. I was very clear and very determined that this was what I was going to do. So after probably 30 years, 33 years of no exams, no study, and none of that, I was writing 4-hour exams with no pee break. I managed to get through that, and in a fast track program. I had no income coming in, living a little bit off of my RSPs at that time. Thank God I had them. And then I started building my business the grassroots way, and made sure I kind of crawl, walk, run was my theory, so that I understood what I was trying to do for my clients before I went out and talked to a bunch of clients. So I'm pleased to say that over the years, Whitney, I started off very slow, and I had to have the courage to do it. But I listened to my gut instincts, and I knew I could get there. And never once did I waver. Never once did I say, I can't do this. I just stayed focused on, I can do this. And I'm pleased to be working with you, Whitney. I love the mentorship that I have. It's very to the point, matter of fact, and let's move on, which is absolutely my style.
Yeah. Well, what I love is that clients, they're attracted to you. They come to you in droves, and you've got a very clear, clean process of working with cash flow management and building wealth. And you do really well with business owners, and business owners tend to be unique in that they focus on their business all the time, and it's all about the deal and the clients and the making money and so on and so forth. But somebody's got to manage the chips around that, and making sure that some of the chips come off the table, that there's safety measures put in place. And when you're a business owner like I am, and like how you are, is that we get it, we understand, and we know how to build wealth. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is dump all your money into your business and then figure that you're going to sell it when you're 65, and there's nothing to sell when you're 65, because we don't use vinyl records anymore. Like the world continues to change. And so I'm just gonna have to wrap this up in a couple minutes, but I did want to say that social media is obviously a big player today. And even though the way you and I work, we're on a referral basis system, and we tend not to be picking up people on social media. But the thing is, our referrals are watching us on social media. So,
And sharing.
Yes. And so what's interesting is that, for me, my quiet time is at midnight when I can like, oh, okay, I'm going to like just, go on Facebook for a couple minutes and who's there? Teresa becomes my midnight friend because we're burning the oil at midnight still. I'm still working. And then you were also my early morning friend. So I was like, hey, I really like this girl because she's like me. She doesn't sleep much. So yeah, I've got lots of time to sleep when I'm dead. So anyhow, so that's how we met. And I think that you're a powerhouse. And I think that your work ethic is incredible. So in your story, what came to me is the same work ethic that I had. That we were willing to get out there, to work hard, to grab shifts, to do newspapers, to do babysitting, to do whatever we needed to do. And that's what makes us both great advisors, is that we don't have an 8 to 4 mentality. We'll run and get and do whatever we need to do at whatever time it has to be. We don't have a lazy outlook on life, which is great for servicing and taking care of people, is to always be there. Like we're always on to get that message, and to, we're there, we know how to service. So you've got a great career. So what next? So moving forward, because I know we push you out of your comfort zone, because it's the only way we can grow in our lives is to get pushed out of our comfort zone. And Theresa's getting pushed out of her comfort zone by having to be raw and real all the time on social media, and her Wisdom to Wealth show that she does every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. So tell us, what's next for you?
Well, I'm going to stick with the things that have certainly worked, which you just said in your wrap up, is service above self. It's not complicated. Look after your clients, learn, see if you can systemize it for the future, but make sure they're there for you. My clients know that I'm a text or a call away, and that they're confident that I'm always monitoring the markets and paying attention to their plan. So that will always be. Failure is not an option. I just reinforce that with going back to school and being determined. So that is an absolute given. It's in my blood. I don't need to worry about it. It's there. The last couple of things is, none of us are as smart as all of us. So having a mentor, having a coach, talking to my kids, involving them in the decisions that we make around our house, that will always be. And the most important thing, as I grow my business, which my goal when I started working with Whitney was to grow my business 25% a year for the next 4 years. We just wrapped up our year, and I'm sitting at 62% for the year. So thank you, Whitney, for your help with that and your mentorship. And my last point is so important. I didn't have the tools when I was younger. I had the parents. They put food on my table, a roof over my head, but I didn't have their guidance. And so for me, teaching my kids how to develop their critical thinking, how to get clear on what they want, what is their why, so that they know how to problem solve. They know how to put a plan in place. And so on Wednesday, when we talk Wisdom to Wealth, I thought it would be good timing at this point of the year to share some planning that I do with my family. And it takes 1 hour a year, and it is so powerful.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. So, I just heard that, the critical thinking, I mean, and that's what I see you doing with your business owner. So what you're applying, keep it simple, Sam, what you're applying with your children is what you're applying with those business owners. And a lot of times people will talk over our head and we're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? And you're not doing that. You are putting the building blocks in place to for your children and for your business owners, so that they'll never look back in life and say, oh my God, I don't have any money. So, and just to wrap it up here. So Theresa, I mean, it's clear to me your why was determined at a very young age, and it's in your subconscious, and you came to where you are today, and you are now aligned in a career that works for you, because you know what it's like to to not have the the critical thinking and the you know, the asset building tools at a young age. And I know that our world isn't all about money, but people that are, I mean, we are an entrepreneur, and if you're watching an entrepreneur, we don't want to teach you how not to build wealth, okay? Because that's what it's about. You're not going to work and slave, you know, hours and years and not build some type of significant wealth. So I'm so glad to have you on the team, and you're fresh. You're a fresh face, a fresh breath into everybody that you work with. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Whitney.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see everybody Wednesday morning, 2 days from now.
Yep.
No rest for the wicked. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Whitney.
Bye-bye.